Hi everyone, on today's video we're gonna be going through my makeup routine. I'm gonna be showing you guys some of my favorite products that I always use every time I do my makeup, and I'm also gonna show you my go-to eyeshadow look that I always do when I'm on the go. If you want to see what my makeup routine looks like and the products I'm gonna be using, keep on watching. The first thing I do in my makeup routine is go in with the First Aid Beauty Ultra Repair Cream. If you guys saw my first YouTube video, I told you guys that I do use this because my face tends to get a little sensitive, and with foundation it does get itchy. The main reason why I got this specific one was for this one, because it does say that it temporarily helps relieve minor irritation and itching due to eczema and other conditions. So right when I saw itching, I had to try this out, and I've been using this for actually a while. If you guys can see all the product I've already used, I really love it, and honestly it really does help stop my itching a lot. And what I love is that it doesn't make me oily. After I use the First Aid Beauty Cream, I do go in with my foundation. My go-to foundation is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I have mine in the shade 5.0. I've been using this for a really long time. The main reason why I do like this foundation is because it is a matte foundation. I have very oily skin, and I tend to gravitate towards all the matte foundation because oily and luminous foundations just don't go together. I don't like to look shiny. She's gonna be with me for a very long time. I'll go ahead and use this Ulta Beauty tray to put my foundation on. Usually I just use 2 pumps. To apply my foundation, I use my favorite beauty blender by Juno & Co. This particular beauty blender isn't like your regular beauty blender. This one is fuzzy, but what I like about it is that it doesn't absorb as much foundation as any other beauty blender will. When I'm picking out a foundation, I make sure that it matches my neck and not my face. My neck has always been a different color than my face, so when I do get matched, I always match it to my neck. I do bring it down, and sometimes when I'm wearing shirts like this, I want to make sure that like if I turn to the side, that my neck looks like all one color. When I get to my forehead, I go all the way up to my hairline because I don't want my hairline to be a different color than my actual face, and I make sure to get all the way in there. The reason why I like this foundation is because it's full coverage, and full coverage is the only kind of foundation that I do. Once the foundation is done, I use under eye concealer. The concealer that I've always used is the Nars Creamy Concealer in the shade Macadamia. Honestly, when putting on concealer, I just do 1 or 2 swipes and I just wipe it across. A lot of people like to do like all this like triangle thing. It's so unnecessary, and really you're using a lot of product when you don't really need to. At least personally I don't. To blend it in, I use this Morphe sponge. I mainly use it because of the straight edge. It fits perfectly under the lash line and as well as in the inner corner. I just want to mention that when I do pick out my concealer, I like to go a shade lighter than what my foundation is to give it like a brightening effect, but I don't want it to be too light to where it makes my under eyes look completely white. Once concealer is on, I go in with the Mercier translucent powder. This powder is literally my ride or die. I just go ahead and tap it onto the lid, and then I'll go in with this Morphe sponge right under the eye. When putting on the setting powder, I use it for baking, but also I like to make sure that I put a lot because I do leave it on while I'm doing my eyeshadow. It's good for catching any fallout that will go down on your face. So I don't just put it under, I make sure to go a little bit down. Any excess that I have on the sponge, I will put it on my nose because that's usually the first thing that gets oily for me. When I start my eyeshadow, I first use the Urban Decay Primer Potion. It is the original purple. I believe they have 3 others. They have like a brown one, but I always just go in with the original. So I swipe. I put it on the center of my lid because after I'll be going in with my finger and make sure it's spread it everywhere. I make sure to get into my inner corner because I do love to put inner corner highlight, and right under my brow bone. This primer does dry down fast, so I would make sure to work with it quickly. For my brows, I use the Anastasia pomade in dark brown, as well as the Morphe M432 brush. It's a straight brush that really helps me make precise lines. You don't need to put too much of this product on your brush. It is really pigmented, and you also don't want to make your eyebrows too dark. I start off my brows by making a line right underneath of where I want it to go, and I go on the tail to give that illusion that my eyebrow goes all the way. After I make that line, I will drag the remaining of the product on my brush up. If I feel like I did put too much just to make that line, I'll go ahead and drag it upwards. You don't want to put too much product on the front of your brow since you want to give it that faded out kind of look. I'm gonna go back in the pomade, and now I am gonna do a line at the top, but I try to avoid this front part again because we do want to give a faded out look. And I'll get as close to my natural shape as possible. Because I already have a natural eyebrow shape, I don't really make my eyebrow bigger. I feel like I already like the thickness of my brow, so really I'm just outlining it. I do have a very sharp corner to my brow, but sometimes I want to give it a more softer look, so I'll go ahead and curve. And again, any excess product that is left on my brush, I'll just go ahead and brush it through my hairs to make sure that it doesn't look like I have any bald spots. So if you can see, I tried to give it that faded out look here in the front, and then I curved my brow up here. Now that I've placed the pomade right where I want it to be, to clean up my brow, I use the same brush, the M432. I take the Nars concealer again. I don't want too much product on my brush just because I'm only gonna tap it. And I only want the product to be right on the edge. I don't need it to be on the rest of the brush. Again, I'll just follow those lines and outline where I had the pomade. Now that the brows are done, I'm finally gonna start my eyeshadow. For eyeshadow today and for my everyday looks, I used the Jaclyn Hill X Morphe palette, the first edition. She did sign my palette. I was there the first day that the palette actually launched. It was really hot because I think it was like in August, and I took my boyfriend with me. He goes to almost all the makeup launches with me. And I think I actually have videos of it, so I'll go ahead and insert a clip if I still have it.
Thankful for you. I hope you enjoy the palette. You have no idea. Wait, did you get it? Tweet me, tag my husband. He's always looking at everyone who tags him. I want to see your thoughts. I want to see your reviews. If you don't like it, tell me, because I will make it better for you, okay? I love you guys. And you mean so much to me. Thank you for staying out here in the hot sun. I can't. I love you so much. Thank you. Jaclyn, woo! Can I get one more? Jaclyn, next one. I'm so sorry, guys. We have to go. So I love you guys. I love you.
It's a little dirty, so don't be scared. My everyday look consists of a gold shadow. I usually use a light brown transition shade, and then I'll do a gold shadow all over the lid. I always like to make the outer corner darker and just blend it all in. To start my shadow, I use a M433 brush. It's a small, more of a blender brush, but I use this for my transition shade, and again, this is the M433. I go in with the lighter transition shade because I am putting dark brown on the end and I want my gold to stand out, so I don't want to have a dark transition shade that will take away from the whole look. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put it on my crease, and I do take it up just a little higher than my crease just to blend it in. I don't necessarily like to put it down here just because that is where the dark brown is gonna go. So as long as you're doing it on the curve of your eye, you're good. After the transition shade, I go in with one of my favorite Morphe brushes. I literally have 7 of these. It's the M167. I always use this brush to apply the main color of shadow on my lid. It's not only great for packing eyeshadow, but for swiping that main color all across the lid. So for today's main color on the lid, since we are doing gold, I'm gonna be using the only gold shade in the palette, and that's this guy right here. I'll take the shade and start out by making this line of where my crease is, because that's where I know the eyeshadow is going to stop. After I made that line, I'll go ahead and fill in the empty spaces. And I don't know if you guys can already tell, but I do already have fallout, and it is quite a bit of fallout, but it's okay, and that is the reason why I do bring my baking powder all the way down and not just under the eye. If I don't feel like the color is shiny enough or stands out enough, I go in with my Morphe Continuing Setting Mist. But first, I make sure that I put the eyeshadow on my brush. I get enough product and then I spray my brush. I've seen a lot of people spray their brush down first and then go into the shadow, but I don't like doing that because it'll leave your eyeshadow looking a little wet and sometimes it messes with the color. For example, I have this Kylie palette, and if you guys can see that color right there, I sprayed my brush before I went into the actual shadow, so you can see exactly where that shadow is wet. And honestly, it messes with your shadows, so just make sure to put the product on your brush and then spray. After I have that color all over the lid, I'll go back in with my M433 and go back and forth to make sure that everything is blended. When I feel like the eyeshadow is blended enough, I take my Morphe M222. It is more of a domed brush and it is a little bit thick. I use this brush to pack on the darker shade that I'm gonna use on the corner. For the outer corner shade, I always go in with this brown right here, and then I will tap it in the areas that I want it on. Try not to go too far out because you do need to blend it, and try not to go too high because you just want to keep this dark color on the end. You also don't want to grab too much product because sometimes it'll just be too dark and it'll be even more difficult to blend out. Now I'm gonna take this brush right here. It's the Morphe M513. It is almost like the transition shade brush, but this one is more round and a little bit more fluffier. I start to blend out that darker color in circle motions, and then I slowly bring it up. And I do drag this shade a little bit out, but not too much. I also kind of do like a back and forth between the gold and the transition shade just to make sure that the shade is mixed in there. When I feel like I've blended it out enough, then I'll start dragging it at the top and taking the transition shade to help me blend it out. Once I like the placement of that shadow, again, I'll go in with the first brush, take a little bit of the transition shade, and make sure that those two colors are blended. And this time I'm not really focusing right in the crease, but more so above it. Because this transition shade is so light, it won't affect any brow bone highlight that I'm trying to add after. After I blended it to my liking, I use this smaller detailed brush to do my brow bone highlight and inner corner highlight. And this brush is the Morphe M213. For the brow bone and inner corner highlight, I take this second shade and I put it right below the brow and on the inner corner. I love this brush because it fits perfectly in that inner corner and gets it right where you need it to be. And just blend that out. Now that I finished the top portion of the eye, I like to add a darker shade right at the bottom lash line. But to do that, I have to wipe off all the excess and the baking powder first. So I use my Morphe R3 brush. It's from the Rose Gold collection and it is a dome brush. When I'm doing this, I make sure to lightly and carefully dust off the excess eyeshadow and then wipe it off on my hand too. You don't want to push and then wipe because you can accidentally press the eyeshadow onto your skin and leave the color there, although the baking powder should help with the removal, but you just want to be extra careful so that you don't ruin your foundation. Now that I took the eyeshadow off, I can go ahead and push more in and make sure to wipe that baking powder off. And for the final step of the eyeshadow, I go in with the M432. I do have two of these brushes. One is for concealing the eyebrow and the other one is for adding eyeshadow right under. Because it is very flat and straight, it makes it perfect for right next to the waterline. And the shadow that I'm going to use for the lash line is also going to be this brown that I used for the outer corner. The goal here is to make sure that that lash line is dark so that your eye stands out. I'm going to put it right on that lash line, slowly going to drag it. Something else that I also like to do, like I mentioned in my first video, is to add a liner in the actual waterline. Today I'm gonna take the Morphe color pencil in shade Coconut. Now that I'm done with both eyes, I put on eyelashes next. My go-to pair of lashes is from Ardell. It is the Demi Wispies. These are not too dramatic, so it is more for an everyday look. To apply them, I use the Duo Glue. I like the blue one because it is a squeezy too, so I'm able to control how much glue I'm actually putting on the lash. To me, I just personally feel that the more glue I put, the longer my lash stays. I do cut the ends of the lashes just because it has an extra plastic part, and I don't want that hurting my eyes. When I do have a brand new pair of lashes, I like to grab them and just do this just to loosen them up a little bit so that when I do put it on my eye, it takes its shape. Make sure that you don't squeeze too hard because then a lot of glue will come out. So you want to see, this is how much glue I put. It's a little bit thick, but again, for me personally, the more glue the better. I grab the bottom. I don't actually place it directly, but I do more of sit it on top. I try to make sure it's in the middle, and I'll stick the middle part down first. Then I will take the outer part. If you do get glue everywhere, don't worry about it, because the duo glue does dry down clear, which is another reason why I love that glue. Another thing about when I'm applying a lash, some people like to wait and make sure it gets tacky, but personally it's worked out better for me when I just apply it while it's wet, and for some reason it lasts me longer. I don't know if it's this glue in specific, but I have tried it out with the green one as well, and it did work out for me too. Another tip that I have on lashes, sometimes when you put the lash on, you'll notice that the middle part didn't actually stick on. Instead of having to take your entire lash off, you can actually just tug on the end, and almost like if you're stretching it out, and that will fix the bump issue for you. Once my lashes are on, I use my favorite mascara from the brand Buxom. It's in Black is Black. I've used this mascara for a really long time now, and I've gone through so many of them. I like to keep the ones that don't have so much product in them left, not to use them to actually put mascara on, but for situations like this when I have lashes on and I don't want too much mascara, I just want to use something to make sure that my natural lashes blend in with the falsie. Because it doesn't have so much product, I use the end and I push up. The next step in my makeup routine is to get my cheek contour, blush, and highlight on. First, for bronzer, I use the Kylie Cosmetics bronzer in the shade Toasty. To apply this on, I use this Morphe brush that is more angled. It doesn't have a number because it was part of their vegan set. A brush that is similar to this though is the M405 brush, and it's literally called Contour Blush Brush. So you can actually use this brush as well. At first I just drag it. When I like how dark it is, I'll start doing circle motions. Once I have that on, I like to use this Morphe sponge. In order to clean it up, I will take some of the Laura Mercier setting powder, make sure to get it right at the end of the sponge, and then I cut it. This tip I actually got from Jaclyn Hill herself, and she does this just to make sure that the contour looks more sharp. For blush today, I'm also going to use a Kylie Cosmetics blush, and it's in the shade Close to Perfect. I really like this shade because it's not too pink. I would say it's more of an orangey, and I love more of an orangey blush. I'm going to use the E48, and I'll just go ahead and pat it on there first. And I do go a little crazy with blush sometimes. I just think blush really needs to make a comeback. Now for highlight, I'm going to use my favorite brand of loose highlighters, and that is Artist Couture. You can buy this online or at Sephora. Sephora is the only store that you can actually go in and shop these highlighters, and I believe the shades that they have there are limited, but the shade I'm going in with today is Illuminati. These highlighters are literally blinding. And this shade is available at Sephora. Because there is a lot of product, I just use what's on the lid. This highlighter is so blinding that you don't actually need to dip into the real powder. Whatever is on the surface of the lid should be enough. And for the brush, I used the Morphe M510. Sometimes even the product on the lid can be a crazy amount, so I tap it just a little, make sure that my brush is coated. You can already see it. I love this. Highlighter is literally my favorite part of a makeup routine. I go in with highlighter like almost heavy-handed. Like I like to just put it everywhere. If you can see my highlighter from across the street, then girl, I did the job right. Ooh. I'm sorry guys. Please. Do you see that? Oh, I love this. I think I have about like 5, honestly maybe 7 of these. These are the best loose highlighters that I've ever used. I do like to take it all the way up here. When I do make that turn, you're gonna be like, damn, look at her highlighter, and it's gonna be all over. Put it on my nose. always put it on the Cupid's bow. Sometimes when I do want to do a brow bone highlight, I'll actually go in with this highlighter and make sure that it's a brow bone highlight. That way when I turn, the reflection's not only from here, but it's also on my brow. You can take that M213. What I also like to do is I'll put it right on the edge of the brow, right where it curves. And now we can move on to lipstick. I am seriously a lipstick hoarder. The amount of lipstick that I have is just ridiculous. If you know me and you've been following me on Snapchat for a long time, you know I have a Kylie Cosmetics lipstick addiction. These are just the liquid lipsticks that I have. I'm addicted. These both are my go-to Kylie Cosmetics lipsticks. This one is in the shade Ginger in her matte liquid lipstick formula, and then this one is the shade Nova in the lipstick tube, and they do have both of these at Ulta. I'm actually gonna go in with Ginger, and Ginger is such a good color if you want to go for a more of a fall vibe. There are some people out there that think that Kylie's liquid lipsticks are just too drying, so I would recommend putting on a chapstick before you even start your makeup routine, just so that when you do get to the lip part, your lips are already moistened. And to bring it all together, I use the Kylie Cosmetics setting spray. Again, I really love matte foundation, so I have to have a matte setting spray. If you know that you're really dry, I'd recommend to go in with the Continuing Setting Mist by Morphe. Okay guys, so this is the completed look. We finally made it to the end of my makeup routine. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a requested video from a subscriber. If you guys do have any future video requests, you can go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, or you have my Instagram and Twitter. If you did like this video and want to see more of my makeup looks, please subscribe, click the red button and become a subscriber. Click that bell notification down below so that you get a notification every time I upload. Also, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any of the products that I already used today, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like you're gonna do this look, give it a thumbs up. You know what? I think this whole video, honestly, it deserves a whole thumbs up for this freaking highlighter. Like, give it a thumbs up for the highlighter, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye! Another reason why I like this foundation is because it is full coverage, and you guys already know I'm the full coverage queen. So I'll go ahead and tap some onto the lid. And I don't use too much because definitely glowing for the gods. So I'm in the middle of doing my brow, and I realized I seriously just used the wrong brush. I don't use the M432 to do my brow. I use the M158 to do my brow. I'm sorry about that, guys. The only reason why I noticed too was because I wanted to brush up my hairs, and I was like, wait, where's the spoolie? I'm literally so freaking proud. You guys are not gonna believe what time it is right now. It's literally 1 in the morning. Who does this? Me. Y'all better go and subscribe because I'm up here until 1 in the morning. No, I'm just kidding. I need to wear this look out. I'm gonna go across the street to 7-Eleven. Oh my god, I forgot to set. I'm sorry guys, I forgot to set my makeup. Don't forget to set your forehead. And your chin. Oh my god, how did I miss a whole ass step? Well, now I know if you watch the bloopers, you're a real one because you watched the whole video. So you are gonna have a good makeup routine because you stayed till the end.